you on for a multitude of reasons, but one of the main reasons is the way that you keep like circumventing and we keep circling each other in this life. But do you remember
Okay.
the first time that we met on the set of The Pretty One?
I mean, I feel like I only filmed one day, so it
Yeah,
must have
yeah,
been the day that we were doing the little
yeah,
circle,
yeah.
and you were assistant producing? Is that right?
No, I was like, I had a non-job. I was shadowing Steven Berger, who was the producer
Oh,
on that. And they
yeah.
actually did want to give me a job. Eventually, they were like, oh, I think it was like the production coordinator had to leave in the middle of the show. And they were like, do you want to take this job and be paid? Because I was volunteering. And I
Right.
said, no, I turned it down because I didn't want to be stuck in the production office. I was like, I really want to be able to float and see and learn and talk and absorb all of the stuff. And so it was like a really great decision at that time in my life. But I,
Yeah.
I distinctly remember meeting you because Janae Lamarck, the filmmaker, you're really good friends with her. And
Yes.
before you coming on, because I had been helping with like the SAG paperwork and all of the stuff and was really aware of like who was playing what, there was just a lot of like, oh yeah, and then Jen's going to be playing this character and Jen's coming on this day and Jen and Jen. And I was just like, who is this woman? Like, this is amazing. And then you showed up and you were just, I remember you just being like, I have a distinct memory of you just like coming out of a pass van for some reason, just like
It's so
stepping down
funny.
from a pass van and then me
Right.
saying hello to you. I don't know like where we were in that moment, but that's like the scene
Right.
in my head. And it was just delightful. It wasn't, we obviously didn't have a deep conversation about anything. So why would you remember me? But yeah, I remember
No,
you.
I remember meeting you because when we met, many, many years down the line, like just last year, I think is when we reconnected,
Yeah.
right? And you
Yeah.
said, I don't know if you remember me, but I was shadowing on Pretty One. And I was like, oh my gosh, yes, totally.
Yeah. And it is like we talk about, right, how you never know who you're going to meet and how your paths intersect. And
Yeah.
what's important about this little nugget of time is if either one of us had had a really bad experience of each other, we would absolutely remember that. I think it's just really important that you just always show up with the best version of yourself. Life is lifing regardless of what production is doing, but
Totally.
to show up and be like the kindest, best version you can be that day, it
Yeah.
does imprint in people in these small ways. So it's delightful to have intersected last year through motherhood, of all things, which ties very beautifully,
Yeah.
if you want to say that, into this
Yeah.
film. But then,
Interestingly.
interestingly, and then to also now, almost a year later from that, get to have you on the show. So, like, thank you for
I know.
saying yes
Thank
and
you for
coming on.
having me.
It's such a treat. So, take us a little bit to the beginning of your journey and when you discovered that a path as a storyteller was one you wanted to pursue.
Well, my parents will say that I was, singing and acting before I was really walking or talking. So it's something that I've always really been interested in, primarily as an actor. And, I went through the kind of traditional route of doing, local community theater and high school plays and undergrad. I had an amazing mentor. I was originally going to be pre med, and then I slowly started like switching my major until it got to a double major of corporate communications and public relations, which kind of felt a little bit adjacent to the business a bit,
Mhm.
and computer sciences. But all I did was theater. I did the Musical Theater Guild. I did the theater department productions, and they have something called ACTF. It's the American College Theater Festival, um, and they nominate, for awards. So I was nominated for Best Actress 3 years in a row, which then had master's programs kind of trying to recruit me to come to their program. And it was my theater teacher, Jack Shea, at my undergrad, who really kind of encouraged me to do that. So I got my MFA in acting, and then I moved to New York, where I worked totally just in theater.
Yeah.
And it just didn't even really like seem possible that I've come from a very, very small town in the center of Massachusetts. It's like there's not a single stoplight, there's no
Wow.
restaurants. We have a Cumberland Farms and a little co-op general store, and I think that's it.
Wow.
So it just made no sense to me that I would ever, work in TV or film. But my first play that I did in New York City, I met my now husband, Ross Partridge. And he had Jay Duplass come to kind of scout him a bit for their movie Baghead. And when Jay came to see that play, he said, yes, we want Ross to play, one of these lead characters in our movie. And he said to me, you're so great. We don't really have anything big for you. But would you want to come out for a couple weeks and just work on the film with us and play this small festival director role? And I said, be in a movie? Like, what? Yes, of course.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, how cool. Wow, that's so neat. And I didn't know anything about the filmmaking process. So that was such an interesting boot camp because especially at that time, they worked in such a small, family-driven way where, we were all cooking the meals and, Ross was climbing a tree and drilling in a baby plate and lighting his own scenes and then, rigging a power strip, through a different room so that it wouldn't be on camera. So it was really so cool to do that. And then beyond that, they cast me as a bigger role in their movie, The Dodeca Pentathlon. So that I would say those two films really kind of launched me into moving out of just doing theater, which is still such a passion and love of mine, into working on film and television, which might even be more of a passion. I
Really?
really, yeah,
Why? What do you love about it?
look, I really miss doing theater. I haven't done a play and I think it's gonna be 10 years this year. Once I
Wow.
moved out of New York City, I haven't done it. I would do some, play readings, every once in a while with, the Echo Theater Company, which is a great theater company in LA, but I just haven't found the project that makes me want to not do film and television, which
Yeah.
is such a good gut check for me, where I'm
Yeah.
like,
Yeah, yeah.
if I'm preferring to do, um film and television, and for lots of reasons. I mean, it's obviously financially much more sustainable to do film and TV than theater, but I don't know. I have a real passion for it, and and it's also the part of the storytelling. You really get to craft things when you become the storyteller, whether you're the writer or you're the producer. As an actor, you get to craft your role, but the director, producers, editor can do so much magic, and the post production phase
Yeah.
is not necessarily my favorite because acting is my favorite. That's my number one passion. That's what I really want to do. But if people are not giving me the opportunities, we just, we make our own opportunities, and that's what we did with Birthright.
Yeah.
But the
Yeah.
post-production phase is so fun to really just
Yeah.
so finely tune, a story and to be able to tell it in the best way possible.
Well, it's like you have 3 versions, right? You have the movie you write, the movie you shoot, and then the movie you find in post, and those are completely
Exactly.
different movies
Yes.
sometimes. And
Exactly,
things
exactly.
can go awry at every step of the process, which is always such a miracle, tiny miracles all along the way. I do want to back up because I read in your Wikipedia,
Yeah.
which I don't know how true this is or who put this there, but
Okay.
that you
I don't
actually
know.
worked as an EMT for 7 years throughout your
Oh,
time in
yeah.
college, which is a very fun fact and also a long time to do that, especially as someone who's pre-med. And I know your dad is Dr. Dad, famously in our mom group.
Yeah.
I'm curious how your parents felt about you shifting gears into acting, into a more quote unquote difficult industry, but also what those 7 years were like and what they kind of taught you about humanity that you bring into your work today.
Yeah, I come from a family full of civil servants. My mom is a paramedic firefighter who's chief of the ambulance squad. My dad is a recently retired emergency room physician who used to work as a PA in pediatrics. And I have lots of cousins and aunts and uncles who are doctors or nurses or physician's assistants. I mean, just a myriad of that exists in my family. As soon as I turned 18, I became an EMT and I worked on the ambulance with my mom, taking care of patients and
Wow.
then transporting them to the emergency room where my dad was the ER doctor. So
Can you write a movie about this?
oh, we have a show deep in development.
Oh
It's
god,
called
this
Family
is
Emergency. Let me know, call
mm.
me. It's very fun, and ready to go. So, but my parents have always been super, super supportive, and I think they knew that, I've always had this inside of me that I've always wanted to be an actor. And when I started to get recruited for MFA programs, my teacher, my professor called my parents because I was like, I can't do this. Like, this is not a reasonable profession. Like, I'm not, like, I
Mm.
have to do something where I'm going to be able to like make money and create a career. And he said, well, let's just call your parents and talk to them. And he gave my parents a little bit of the down low of what was going on, that he was, getting a lot of interest in having me join these programs. And so my dad said, look, is this, sorry, I've got a hair on my face here. He said, is this what you want to do? And I said, well, yeah, sure. But he's like, no, 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 no buts. If this is what you want to do, you should do it, because it's much better to look back on your life and say, why did I do this, rather than why didn't I do this? And that has been like a life motto for me for, since that moment, which was, a lot of years ago.
A lot of years ago. I hope dad's proud of you. I'm proud of you. But now you've really have built a remarkable career. You've done a lot of indie films, certainly TV, theater. What is it that you look for in choosing the projects that you ultimately end up being in?
Mm, I read a lot of scripts. Some are fine or fair to middling or not so much. And then there are also a bunch that are great. And if I feel something when I'm reading through a script, if it's making me, overcome with emotion, whether I'm laughing or crying,
Mm,
that's such an indicator to me that it's material that really resonates with me, that I really want to do. So
yeah.
that's kind of the biggest thing. Um, but then I also say to myself, can I be good in this? Because you
Mm,
can't, as an actor, you can't control whether the whole movie is going to be good, but you can control your performance.
that's a
So
good
I
point.
ask myself, can I be good in this? Can I be good in this role? And if the answer is yes, then I go for it.
Yeah.
But real, like, say yes kinda gal, like, I
Yeah.
I just get excited when somebody wants to, work with me, like, if somebody's specifically sending me a script because they want me to be a part of their project, that's fun and interesting and exciting, and I get excited that they're excited to work with me, and then I become excited to work with
Well,
them,
it's a
and
different
and
energy, right, of how you're going into it, because then it really does feel like a collaboration and you're already being sought out because of some intangible thing you bring versus having to jump through hoops and audition and hope you're chosen rather for the opportunity when it's like someone's coming
yeah,
to you, they've already chosen you in some extent. And so now you just get to
yeah.
play.
I do sometimes wonder, like, when I'm on the other side, like when I'm producing, when we're going out to actors and you're just putting out straight offers, um, I wonder if it almost takes the thrill of the chase out of it for
Mm,
some people, where they're like, "Well, I didn't even have to work for this," so I don't know if it's, like, that interesting, or if they're willing to offer it to me without even an audition, then are they desperate? Like, I always wonder what is the thought process on the other side, and I don't know what that is, because for me, it's like, "You wanna play? I'll play. Let's do it. Let's go."
yeah. I can see the psychology of that. It depends on where you are in your career and I guess how much you've fought and won the battle against cynicism.
Right.
You
Right.
know, as well, I'm not sure. So then talk a little bit on that note, like about Birthright and then how this project comes to you, what you see in your character's journey that made you feel really connected.
So, my husband, Ross Partridge, who directed the
Yes.
film, he and I were talking a lot about wanting to do a horror film. Now, mind you, neither of us are actually big horror people. We're not huge horror fans. We don't, we're not too immersed in that scene, I guess you could say. But it was something that we were really curious about, that we really wanted to play with. And we started to bounce some ideas off of each other, and then our friends Michael Chernus and Patch Dara came to town for the SAG Awards, I think. Michael Chernus is an amazing actor from Severance. He's in our movie. And Patch Dara is also a great actor who can be seen on shows like Succession. And he told us about how he had written a script with somebody that we also knew named Aaron Gann. And he kind of gave us just like a little like soft pitch because we said, oh, what's it about? And he really hit several points just in like a 2-minute description of the movie of things that we had kind of been talking about. Not the same, but like hitting within the same world. And Ross said, send it to us because we were wanting to do something. And that's how it started. I mean, that was, I think, at the end of February. And we read the script and we worked with them a little bit, just kind of giving some notes and suggesting some different rewrites. And we locked the script right before the writer's strike happened. They're not in the WGA, but out of solidarity, we, all wanted to kind of, be showing that was it.
Yeah.
So we locked the script before the WGA strike, and then we wrapped production days before the SAG strike started. And it was very much a race to beat those strikes because we knew that they were happening. We knew for sure the WGA one was going to happen, and we felt pretty sure that the SAG one was going to happen. So we wanted to have something to work on in post during the strike. So we had something to focus on and be creative with, and that we could kind of, do our thing while also walking the picket lines every other day. So that's kind of how it came to fruition. It was super, super, super fast. We shot for, I want to say 17 days, and it was a race. The pre-production process was really short. We just had like a few weeks on the ground here to kind of find all of the locations and do all the casting and get everybody here. And we had Shaheen Seth, who is a wonderful cinematographer who we first worked with on a movie called The Midnight Swim that Sarah Dina Smith directed. And so he also happens to be her husband and a very dear friend. So we convinced him to come out and shoot, and he's a beautiful cinematographer. So it was a total race, but we did it. I mean, it nearly killed us, but we did it.
Listen, those are so fun, but we only have bandwidth for so many of those kinds of projects in our lives because it really requires you to be deeply plugged into the matrix in a way, especially when you're in it, you're producing, everyone is wearing a lot of hats, regardless of titles that maybe someone earns, you're still having to pull a lot of different strings just to make it happen. So it's really commendable. So congrats to you and the team, because I know how hard those projects are, even though the upside is they can feel like camp and you get to just hang out with like your favorite people, right? And I know you guys shot in a house that's also owned by family friends. When the project came to you, it already had the sort of house as the main set piece, or if you guys knew you had this property and worked with the writers to kind of make it work for the house that you had?
No, the script was as is, and they said, we feel like this would actually work really well with shooting in a small town. Ross said, well, Jen is from a small town in New England. And we immediately thought of that house because we rented out the house. It's this like beautiful mansion right down the street. I'm like looking kind of right in the direction of it because I'm at my parents' house in Massachusetts right now. And it's on Elm Hill Farm, which is a beautiful historic farm. And we sent some pictures over from when we rented it for my sister's wedding, which she had on my parents' property. And they were like, this looks really cool. And so we pretty immediately knew that we wanted to shoot there. We got in contact with the man, Bill, who runs the property now, and he was super accommodating. We housed a lot of the crew members in that house, and then, also at a local hotel.
It's such a great example.
Yeah, it's just like calling in favors everywhere. When you're shooting in your hometown, we like, I went to my childhood library and spoke with the librarian, and she gave us the keys and like the code to the alarm was like, go ahead, like film whenever we're not open. Don't worry about it. Like, just text me when you're in, when you're out, like all good. We went to the police department and we're like, we need a cruiser. We need like a police car to be outside. They're like, oh yeah, sure. We'll drop it off. We'll give you the keys. Just let us know when you're done with it. I'm like, okay, cool. They're like, oh,
It's a lot of
you're
trust.
Raj's
It's a lot of
daughter. You're
trust.
Raj's daughter. Sure,
Yeah.
sure.
It's a lot of
Yeah.
trust, a lot of responsibility, but it's, decades of relationship building to get someone to just like be like, take the keys and just come and we trust you. But it's also a great example of leveraging an asset or a resource that you have when you're doing something independently that requires, it's such a labor of love to really bring an insane production value to what you're doing, which I'm constantly harping on the show. And anyone who's like comes to me with seeking advice or making their short film or how do I do this, that's like the first thing I give them is like, look at what is already within reach and make it work for that, because you're going to get people that are going to like open the door for you and give you the keys and just be really eager to help you, because it is an investment in you as a filmmaker, as a person, as an artist, right? More than like the project itself. And you have to really not like leverage that all the time, really be intentional about how you're using those resources or connections, but knowing that they're there is really empowering.
Totally. And that's what I did with my short film. I've only directed one film called Baby Kate, and we shot in our house, and we just kind of called in favors with all of our friends who, did the sound and the lighting, and Shaheen
Yeah.
was the cinematographer.
Yeah.
I used a little girl who I had used to babysit when she was little. Jason Ritter, I just kind of called him and begged him to be a part of it, and he was very accommodating. So that it's the same thing. You have to figure out, what you're capable of. I mean, Mark Duplass would always say, like, create a project, one location, two characters, keep it as small as possible, and you can do anything.
Yeah.
And that's kind of how they got their start, and of course, like over time have expanded, but
Added a couple more characters and a couple
had
more
a couple more
locations.
characters, but not even that many. I mean, Jay
Yeah.
Duplass just made a film called The Baltimoreans, which is primarily two characters, and
Yeah.
so they kind of stay true to their roots of being able to create beautiful stories or interesting, compelling stories that are actually quite small, but if you do them right, they look much bigger than you think that they might.
Yeah, and I think looking at your credits, I would say a term that I've just decided to coin is that one might call you a Duplass darling, because you've really since you met with them, in 2008 was Baghead. I don't know when you started that.
2005 is when we first met,
Gosh,
and then we
so 20
shot.
years. Yeah.
Yeah, 20 years.
So 20 years, right, to have this like long-standing collaboration with both of them in a variety of ways. Like, what has that correct collaboration style been like, and what do you think it was about what synergy you guys found in those early days that has withstood the test of time? Because people often look to find these dream collaborators, right? And oftentimes they're trying to infiltrate circles that have already been kind of made, and it's really hard. When you're at the beginning of your career, that's the time to find and really immerse yourself with those groups. So yeah, what was that like?
I feel so lucky that I got to come into their sphere, and I'm constantly always looking for more excuses and more ways to continue to work with them.
Yeah.
And I think that there's something magical about, they had already gone to Sundance and had the puffy chair and had their,
Hmm.
their short, This Is John. So
Yes.
they were definitely much further along than I was as far as film and television, because Baghead was my very first film role ever. But there is something where when you get to know somebody towards the beginning of your career, when you're still like young and hungry and kind of dumb, dumb enough to just like throw yourself into
Yeah.
every single moment. There's something so pure and beautiful about that just I think really bonds people together. And it's some of those earlier projects that I don't know. You're just family for life. Like
Yeah.
they're all my family for life. Um, and I don't know. I got really really lucky. It feels
Yeah.
very much like being in the right time, right place at the right time, and
Yeah.
and I don't know, I just lucked out and was able to, like you were saying, you show up and you put your best foot forward, and I try to be very professional and prepared, but also fun and
Yeah.
relatable and easy to work with. Because it should be fun. Like, we're like, making movies is so hard and does need
Yeah.
all of those millions of little miracles every step of the way, but it's also so fun. And the
Yeah.
whole point of it is to entertain an audience. So if we're not, having fun, then what are we doing? Because as my dad said, when we were producing Lamb, which was my husband Ross's last movie. I can't always talk anymore. I had a kid, and
You're
I
doing
feel
great.
like I can't talk correctly anymore. I can't think of
Listen,
words
I'm
immediately
in the
anymore.
same boat. As a mom, I'm like, is my brain just starting to go? Is this early onset dementia? Like,
I
what is
know,
happening?
and all the time. But when we were working on Lamb, our main location looked like it was going to fall through mere days before we were supposed to fly out and start filming.
Oh my
And
God.
we were so panicked, and my parents were out in California with us, and we took them up to Big Sur for their 40th wedding anniversary, and we did like a whole vow renewal, just the four of us, and we're constantly trying to walk around holding our phones up, trying to get service to figure out if there's any way to save where our entire movie is supposed to be filmed. And my dad said, "Take a beat. Did anybody die on you today?" And I said, "No, no, but dad, like, the whole movie he's like, "Did anybody die on you today?" And I said, "No." He said, "Then it's a good day. Take it into perspective here, and remember that this is just a movie." And yes, I of course had a point where I'm like, there's a lot of money on the line, there's a lot of people scheduled, like, we did need to figure it out, but it's not life and death. It is
Yeah.
playing pretend and creating stories that will hopefully, make people feel something, but it's supposed to be fun, and I think that that has served me well, where, some wonderful directors have wanted to, continue to work with me
Yeah.
on various projects.
There is a frequency I think that certain people just vibe on, and you find the
Mhm.
people that are in your frequency, and then you click in, and then you just
Yeah.
kinda, like, pod with those people, right? And I think that that's part of what, like, having met Mark and Jay just very passively, part of that, like, there was just some connective tissue there, and your approach to the work even back then that I think they really responded to as 2 guys who also had to really carve out their own lane and just figure it out
Mhm.
and learn and be really self-sufficient and entrepreneurial to tell the stories they wanted to tell and make their movies and create new rules to the game. And obviously we see, like, the impact of that 20 years later. And so, it's really admirable now that you've had this 20-year working and personal relationship with them. What is it a takeaway that you've taken for yourself as a professional and how you've seen the way that they've navigated their journey?
I mean, when Mark did the South by Southwest key point? What's the word?
Keynote,
Keynote, key point. It is a key point. A key point of the
a
keynote,
key point.
uh, the key point, where he says, "The cavalry is not coming. You are the cavalry." That is so in line with his vibe for the entire 20 years that I've known him. That's always been their their motto, just like, nobody's going to give you the opportunities. You have to take the opportunities. You have to make them for yourself. And that's why, I kind of know how to do things on a small level. And, like you were saying, little movies can be like a movie camp. I worked on a movie called From Black with Anna Camp, a year before.
Speaking of camp.
Yes. A year before we shot Birthright. And it was total movie camp. We shot in Natchez, Mississippi. We were able to, like, walk to and from all the locations every day, and we ended up using that same producer, Kelly Fraser. We, like, begged her to come over to Birthright because she's a real producer. I'm a producer in the sense that I can pull connections and I can make everything happen, but she, like, knows how to fill out all the paperwork and do all of the agreements, and I was like, "That is not my thing at all." So she is incredible where she just knows how to do everything.
But I guess it
So
makes me wonder what you think makes an exceptional producer and what is a producer. This is three questions in one. What is a producer? How did your perception or definition of what you thought a producer was evolve from when you
mhm.
started and now getting to do versions of, producing for your own projects? And what do you think makes an exceptional producer?
Such a good question. Um, I think that the producer I feel like this is probably not something that would maybe be thought of from people outside of the industry, but the producer really, I think, sets the tone for a production. And a producer like Kelly Fraser, who can stay so calm and really protect her director. I mean, she was so great about making sure that Ross only knew about what he needed to know about, even though he was producing as well. There came a certain point in the process where we were like, "You now have your director hat on. Don't talk to us. We've got this. Don't worry about it."
Mm,
Um, and and I think just like keeping a well-oiled machine with good vibes is such a hard thing to do, and a producer who can do that
yeah.
is invaluable. Yeah,
Amen to
invaluable.
that. Amen to that. Yet
And
somehow, even though they are invaluable, it's so deeply upsetting how, you know, um, disregarded producers can be like the real ones. And I don't mean to
totally.
discredit other people that bring different parts of the needs of what a producer provides, from financing to relationships and all of that. But to be that lead producer who's really setting the tone, who's running the team, who's steering the ship, who's doing all of that, from gracefully and calmly, and having to often internalize all of that angst, right? And then I always ask like the producers who come on, like, where do you go to like release that? Because when you're in production, like you don't have time sometimes to go cry or go be angry or vent about
Yeah,
the person who's like driving you crazy, and just to show up the next day kind of ready, like who takes care of the producers? And when I'm on set, like
yeah,
I'm always taking care of my producers. I'm always like, do you need anything? Coffee? Like, what can I
yeah,
get you? Do you need water? Like, do you need, like, what is going to make you happy right now? Is it like
right.
a small thing, just a coffee run because you want a really specific latte? Like, let's get you that. Like, that's going
Yes,
to just
totally.
kind of make you feel a little taken care of, which is at its best what we do. I think is why a lot of the producers I respond to and some of the best producers I've worked with tend to be
Mhm.
women, and tend to be, I don't want to say motherly, but they are just able to
Right.
really be multiple things. You can be the stern boss, you can be the no
Yeah,
nonsense person, you can be a friend, you can be an ally, you can be the therapist, you can be all of those roles which women
yeah,
generally have to be in their lives anyway. So it kind of makes us really well suited to deal with
yeah,
these high stakes situations and be able to like, all right, let's kind of zoom out and really try to
totally.
solve one problem at a time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's such a good point. I feel like especially mothers are probably great producers because it's like dealing with a whole bunch of toddlers. Everybody's
Yes.
like doing their own thing. They've got their own vision of what they want to do. They don't want to share. They don't want to
They don't want
compromise.
to share.
It's just like dealing with a whole
When
bunch of children and
when
getting
I
them to
had
all play
Theo,
nicely together.
that's right. When I had Theo last year, I made this post on one of the socials once that I was like, "Oh, I didn't realize that having like a newborn was like how much production I didn't realize how much production was gonna prepare me for especially the early days of motherhood, because I'm
Yeah.
like, I can do odd hours, long nights, and dealing with crying babies. Like, that's
Yeah.
literally production, except now
Remember that post.
I
You're
have
like
to keep
sitting
this
down
one
in a
alive.
rocking chair. Yeah.
Yeah,
I was like,
except this one I
so
have to
true.
keep alive, and the others,
Hmm.
they kinda have figured it out by now. But it is so true how motherhood, I think, really prepares you for so many amazing things in life, but certainly within our career, how it's really, like, shifted things for me, and bringing it back to Birthright, the film really explores complex themes around motherhood and choice, and as a mother to an adorable five-year-old who is also
Yeah.
in the film.
She does like a little tiny cameo
She
where
has a
she's
cameo with the piano.
one of the
Yeah,
students with the piano. Exactly.
that's right,
Exactly.
that's right. So how did preparing for this role, working on this film, change or deepen your perspective around these topics?
We talked a lot about, you know, it's a lot about men wanting to take control and power from women, and how the women featured fight against that. Um, and the look, I'm not saying that that women are better than men, or that men are better than women or anything, but women do have this innate biological superpower where we are able to grow a human being with our bodies. Like, it continues to
Wild.
remain wild, so wild. And I think that it's really reflected in what's happening in our country now.
Yeah.
Um, there are men who are trying to strip women of their power over their own bodies, power over being able to um, bring new lives into this world or
Yeah.
not, and to do it on their own terms, in their own way, in a way that is empowering and safe for them. And that was something that we tried to, like, not hit over the head with this film, but it was definitely something that was very prevalent in all of our minds as we were working on it.
Yeah. Without spoilers, what
Yes,
was the
yes.
most challenging scene to film emotionally for you, maybe for the cast, and that you had to hold space for as a producer on the backside? And how do you go about preparing for those intense moments, especially when you are in such close cahoots with
Mhm.
everyone? You're in such close quarters.
Yeah, there's a scene at the hospital, and that it really kind of affected all of us pretty deeply. It's short. It's almost a montage, the scene. But it was shot in the hospital where I was born, which is now
Wow.
closed down, but the ER was still intact, and they just gave us free reign to go in and film there. And it's also the hospital where my dad was the ER doctor for 35 years or something like that.
Mhm.
Um, and my dad plays the emergency room physician, and his actual nursing staff came in and played the nursing team. Um,
Wow.
and they just kind of were told, like, behave as if this was really somebody coming in with these signs and symptoms. And then Patch Dara plays the other doctor as well, and he's an actor, but he was kind of in with the whole thing, the way that it happened, so fast, so realistic, really heightened emotional point of the movie. I think that was not necessarily not the hardest, but it was the
Mhm.
one that really gut punched us pretty deeply when we were filming. Um, but yeah, it was also really cool to have my dad and these nurses that I grew up knowing as a part of the project as well.
It seems to me that this project is deeply personal in a lot of ways, and even though it didn't, like, come from you, you didn't write it, you're not necessarily
Mhm.
at the helm directing it, but, like, the imprint of your community, your town, your history is, like, really richly in this film in a way I guess I didn't realize. What's that feel
Totally.
like? Because, like,
Um,
you're gonna have these places documented, like, who knows what's gonna happen to some of these physical spaces, and you're gonna have this forever,
Absolutely.
right?
I mean, that the hospital was, I think, shortly after we wrapped, it was demolished. So that is, like,
Wow.
you know, that is forever Mary Lane Hospital emergency room, being documented on film. Same
Mhm.
thing with Elm Hill Farm. I mean, this is, a house that was built in the 1700s or the 1800s. I mean, it's hundreds
Wow.
of years old. And you just never know, what's going to happen, if it will come into too much disrepair, or somebody's going to buy
Mhm.
the farm and want to tear it down and build a McMansion. You never really know. And same thing with the Merrick Public Library in my hometown. It's this gorgeous little library, and I
Yeah.
just feel so delighted that we were able to kind of capture these beautiful historic places that are also so important to my childhood and upbringing, and really kind of programmed into who I am today.
Yeah.
And it's just exciting. Like, everybody in the town, they lent us their children as extras, or they, donated, food or drinks. They was just everybody was always willing to lend a helping hand. Anytime I would put a question out on the Facebook town page, like, we need some deer antlers. And people are like, we've got deer antlers. And, like truckloads of deer antlers being dropped off and
Yeah.
stuff like that. Yeah. So it was really special and cool experience. I'm so glad that we got to film here. Massachusetts has an amazing film program,
Mm.
tax incentives,
Mhm.
great crews. There's a lot of stuff that films here now. So we just felt so lucky, and I would absolutely film here again.
Yeah, and it obviously was a real family affair with you,
Yeah.
Ross and Alma, who seems
Yeah.
to now be in a lot of things with you, and I've seen I was, like, going deep into your Instagram last night and just was, like, delighted to see how many red carpets she's now walked, like
I let her walk the red carpet for The Drop, which is she
okay.
plays the baby. It's a Hulu movie that Sarah Dina Smith directed, and it's about a baby who gets dropped, and she was the baby.
Yes.
And she was like 10, 11 months when we were filming, but then when it came out and we had the Tribeca premiere for it, she was 2, and she had no idea what was going on, but she just like
Yeah.
I have, like, pictures of her, lying down on the red carpet 'cause she's like, "This is great. It's plush, it's beautiful, it's so fun."
She
Um,
seems to really love it, right? I mean, from what I can
yeah,
tell.
what's so interesting is not that long ago, like, weeks ago, I we asked her and okay, so let me preface this by saying that this child has been on every single movie and TV set with me. She has been on over 50 planes. She's been all over the country and world. She is often sitting in my lap while I'm getting my hair and makeup done. She goes to
Mhm.
costume fittings with me. She is around it a lot. She has played my daughter in 2 different projects. She was on the set of Birthright every single day. She was, like, did, like, a little cameo, role. She doesn't understand what we do. We
Yeah,
asked her
yeah.
a few weeks ago, like, what does daddy do for work?" And she was like, "Yard work." And I was like, "Okay, but, like, do you like, what for his job?" And she was like, working in the wood shop." Like, she, like, does not understand, and then I asked
Yeah,
her
yeah.
what I did. I was like, "Well, what about me? Like, what's my job?" And she was like, being my mama." And I was like, "Right, but do you know I work on TV shows and movies?" And she was uh, like, it just, like, was not connecting or computing, like,
Computing.
she
Yeah.
was just like, "What are you talking about?" Like, "Yeah, we do that every once in a while, but, like, on a day-to-day basis, you're with me all the time, and you're my mom." Like, I don't think she knows that either of us are actors,
Yeah.
or that,
It
we
hasn't
do
dawned
like
on
that.
her yet.
It hasn't, like, even though she's, like, been in things and she'll tell people, like, I was in a movie called The Drop, and I was on the TV show with Jennifer Garner." Like, she does conceptualize it to a certain amount, but it's almost like she doesn't realize that, like, I'm also in those things, that I'm also an actor.
She thinks you're just mom being there on set with her.
Yeah, I'm just like, I'm
That's
just there. I'm
funny.
just there, like, holding on
Well,
to her.
with so many we have so many of these cautionary tales, right, of child actors and who they
Yeah.
grew up to be and all of that, and obviously because you and Ross both are in this world, deeply seated in this world, and you're bringing her to sets and, like, she's growing up in this environment. I guess I wonder how you guys navigate that exact thing of, like, you have your kid, they sort of, like, take interest in it and do well with it, they love being around people, they're curious, but
Mhm.
it's like, as moms, how do we know when to, like, really create that boundary, and if it is something they
Yeah.
express interest in because they think it's fun, but, like,
Mhm.
how do you still protect them from all
Right.
these horror stories we hear that could be someone's path, but also could not? Look at the Fannings, they're doing great, you know?
Not something that we want to necessarily encourage, because I think that we both have experienced how difficult this industry is to be in and to make a living, and it's so up and down, and especially the last several years have been so hard, like
Yeah.
really, really hard. It's not really like what I want for her. I wanna I want an easier and happier life for her, and I know that I can't control that. I mean, obviously, if she starts to say, like, "I really wanna do this," then that's a different conversation, but, we're not in the mode of, like, driving her around town to go to auditions or anything like that.
Right.
Like, the 3 projects that she's done, she's played, my daughter in one movie. Ross and I were actually cast as husband and wife on The Last Thing He Told Me with Jennifer Garner, and then when they found out that we were married in real life and had a kid the right age, they were like, "Do you wanna send us a video of your kid, and we'll see if, like, she's
Nice.
the right one to do it?"
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, and then obviously with Birthright, she was just there, and we just kind of, like,
Yeah, yeah. It's
ran the
different.
camera. And she would have already been on those sets anyway, so if she's gonna be on the sets anyway, then yeah, I will absolutely, set up some college funds for her, and,
Exactly. I know. Yeah.
and now that she's
Smart.
getting a little bit older, I think it would be a different experience, but when she was 10 months old and I just would have her on my hip, like, she's just like, "Oh, yeah, I'm just with my mom, and we're hanging out with, all of these fun people in Mexico. This is fun. This is great." Um, but I would be really, really mindful and really careful about, leading her into
Into that.
that, as a career. She's very interested in space and being an astronaut, and I'm like, "Yes,
Yeah.
let's do that.
Let's do that. Let's be an
Let's do some
astronaut.
science."
Let's do science. I love that. But, when you first stepped into the producer's chair, I don't know if this was your first time doing that or if you've done that in other ways, but at what point did you feel like, okay, I'm stepping into this role. I'm a producer. There's a certain responsibility that comes with that. And then when you did, like, what did you like about it and what did you kind of loathe?
Well, look, I've produced on a bunch of things, but a lot of my producing credits, are, in my opinion, not, like, super earned, because I'll get, like, an associate producer credit or something like that if I helped, bring in other members of the cast or helped a bit with locations or helped with some scheduling logistics, like, kind of like producing adjacent stuff.
Mhm.
Um, I would say that the things that I've really produced are things that Ross has directed and then my short film that I directed, um, where I've, like, really thrown myself into it. Uh, and that's because I love him very much because it is not a fun job, it's so hard.
It's
It's so
so hard.
hard.
Yeah.
Um Acting is so fun and so easy. The hard part of acting for me is just booking the job. That's the hardest. That's the work. When you actually
Mhm.
get the job, that is the most delightful, fun, exciting, like, it's just pure joy. Even if it's a terrible, heartbreaking, sobbing your eyes out role, there's nothing that is more fun to me.
Yeah.
Professionally
Well,
speaking, of course.
of course, of course. And not to keep bringing it back to the Duplass brothers, but, because
Yeah.
they're such an example of, like, this epic multi-hyphenate, they can write, they can act, they can produce. But I guess I'm curious what mistakes you've seen actors turned producers make or what cautionary tales you may have for, like, actors that do wanna produce that you can share.
Yeah, it has to be something that you're very passionate about, and while I wouldn't say that I'm necessarily super passionate about producing, I'm very passionate about, supporting my husband because I think he's an incredible filmmaker and storyteller and director and actor, all the things. I just believe in him so much, and he's also my favorite person to work with, so that's where that passion comes from. And that dedication comes to
Yeah,
from
yeah.
as well. Like, I'm just like, I'm dedicated to making this happen for him. And for Lamb, it didn't have the acting payoff. I played a tiny little role that, it was just because I was there. With this film, I had a much bigger role, which made it more fun and more of a payoff for me as well. But it just has to be like a total dedication to telling the story the best that you can and making it look as good as it can and bringing together a whole bunch of different personalities that you just pray fit in enough
Mhm.
with each other to make it happen.
Yeah.
But I mean, honestly, one of the hardest parts of producing is navigating all the different dietary restrictions of the cast and crew. It's like, oh my gosh. Okay.
Oh, it's real. I remember on one show we had a DP who was like deathly allergic to pine nuts, like deathly allergic. And one day, like day, I don't know, 18 of 20, like very towards the end of a very indie film, there was pesto on something and he had it and he went to the hospital and like, which is also like, I have a lot of questions about that between us because I'm like, okay, if you're deathly allergic to pine nuts, how do you not know that it's in pesto? Like, why would you even have it?
Yeah. I
Right?
mean, as soon as you said pine nuts, I was like, pesto.
Right. And then also like there was a swap that day with somebody in the catering team and like it was one of those perfect storms of things, but like we had to fire the catering company because it was a liability, but we're like 2 days out from finishing. It was one of those like cataclysmic production problems where thankfully no one died, but he didn't he couldn't I don't think he actually came back and finished the film. I think the operator had to step up and finish the film because it was that bad. Yeah.
Wow.
So yes, dietary restrictions.
Totally.
But that's funny.
I have a friend who lives right down the street from my parents that I went to high school with, and he's so smart. He's like a big tech exec, but he was in the middle of a transition of from one job to another job. And he had the whole shoot off. And I was like, what are the chances you would want to run Crafty for us? Because I was like, he's so smart and good with like scheduling and he knows the area and everything. He's like, yeah, sure. It's just like getting snacks for I was like, yeah. It's like he told me later, he's like, that was the most stressful hardest job I've ever done in my entire life. And he's like run huge companies. And he's like, no. Making movies, just doing Crafty, so hard, so stressful.
Hard.
He's like, you've got the somebody who's celiac and no dairy, and then this person's vegan and that person's vegetarian, but sometimes they're not vegetarian if something looks really good. And I was like, oh my God.
I mean,
I'm
listen,
like,
I think there's a reason Colin Farrell thanked his Crafty lady when he won the Emmy for the Penguin. Her name was also Carolina, which is why this story is very important to me and no one else remembers it. It's true. Like, again, it's that aspect of taking care of people. And while we're not saving lives, you are dealing with like difficult, challenging pockets of time where people are on all kinds of wavelengths and emotional feelings, and they're tired and they're not sleeping, they're away from home, they're dealing with all of these elements that can come up, make a perfect storm, to just be like, I can see someone really being pissy because you don't have almond milk, and it's like
totally
all of that stuff.
Yeah, it gets something that may
dicey.
not bother you on a normal day, but like after a 12-hour day, you have like the third meal being served, and
it's pizza,
if it's like,
and you're
if
like,
it's not right, if it's not warm, if it's not this, it's just people really kind of lose their
people
minds
being
a little
people.
bit. People being people.
People
Don't be
being
that
people. Don't be that
those
people. But also sometimes you are those people, and if you are crabby and grouchy and you have those days, just be nice about it.
I know.
Just be kind, be like, I know this isn't your fault, but this is cold and it sucks. Like, we get it. There are ways of acting appropriately. You mentioned earlier about navigating the ups and downs of this industry, the unpredictability of the life of an actor as well, where you're always mostly unemployed and seeking the next job, right? Like the long periods of in between. I know what I'm talking about. It's rough. It's really hard. Like the actor life is a really difficult one, I think.
It's really difficult. I mean, look, if things were a little bit better right now, I would probably be much more optimistic about the fact that especially since COVID, everything is self-tape. I get to be with my daughter every single day. She's like, sometimes if I'm like on my computer or my phone, like catching up on a couple of work emails or something for like 10 minutes, she's like, Mama, get off your phone. Phones are bad. I'm like, you're right. Phones are bad. But also like, I'm at work, but I'm really, really lucky where I get to be at work at home with you. So I get to spend most of my time with you. And then sometimes I need to take a few minutes to get some stuff done. But we like do all of our auditions, and we like converted our garage into a great little studio office. We try to do it when she's at preschool, and there's a lot of flexibility. We can travel. Like we don't have a 9-to-5 job. Like that. That's hard to me. Like a 9-to-5 job where you have to be at work every single day, the same time, with the same people, doing the same thing every day. That sounds much harder than what we do. But I just feel like I have not been able to work enough to like feed feed my soul. You know what I mean? In the
Yeah,
last couple of
I
years,
do.
just with this major industry contraction. Um, so in some aspects, we're really, really, really lucky where we can kind of like live off of a handful of jobs and then have the rest of the year to kind of like spend together, time together as a family and
Yeah.
travel and, you know, come to Massachusetts for months at a time sometimes just to be with my parents. But yeah, I don't know what's going to happen going forward because it's
You
never
don't
been
have a
like this.
crystal ball? You don't
I
have the
don't
crystal
have a
ball that
crystal
everyone's
ball.
okay.
I would really love if somebody did, if they can like let me know if everything's gonna be all right and if I need to like
Oh,
totally pivot my whole entire life or not.
would
I
you
don't know.
pivot? Would you pivot? Have you thought
I
about
mean,
that?
to what? To
I
what?
know.
That's the
I don't know. I don't
question.
know. Yeah, yeah.
You know, like as an actor, my side hustle has never been in the service industry. It's been working with kids, babysitting, nannying, teaching, tutoring, directing, teaching swim lessons. Like if it has to do with kids, I'm in. I love kids. But it's something that I didn't do for many years. I haven't had to have any sort of side hustle for many years. But this February I got my postpartum doula certification
Ooh.
because I was like, I gotta have like something to do. And if I can like hold some babies for a couple hours a day, I might be able to keep my sanity and not totally lose
Yeah.
my mind about what's going to happen with this industry.
Yeah, you definitely have that, like, gentle, loving arms, like, I'm not a baby, but I'm like, "Will you hold me?" Like, you just like, I feel like I don't know, something about you
It will
just
hold.
makes me wanna be held, you know? It's just, like, a beautiful energy you have, I don't know. But it really it brought me back to, like, when we met again after the pretty one was at the first book club that we had, and I was like, "Oh my god, I gotta say hi to her, this is so crazy," like, I was, like, nerding out. And there were specific women at that particular time, which was I was 3 months postpartum. It was, like, my first time really going out and, like, being with moms, and it was just such, like, a new world to be like, "So these are moms, and this is what moms do, and we get to still, like, be people that don't just, like, keep these tiny humans alive, and look, they're smiling and thriving and full of life, and, like, this future is possible for me too." But you were just so kind and, just said so many great things and really words of support, that encouragement that were so needed, which is why, like, stepping into motherhood really is a communal effort. But then months later, we went to do that photo shoot, and I brought
Yes.
Theo because I had to. It was still breastfeeding and, it was far, etcetera. And
Yeah, yeah.
you immediately were just like, "Give me the baby. Just give me the
Give me the
baby."
baby.
And you
Go
just
take a
had the
picture. Give
baby,
me your baby.
and you were like, "Hold, take your photos. I have your baby." And you just like, and I just was like, and never worried for any second, like, who is this woman with my baby? Not that anyone would, but when you're in those early days of motherhood, you can be a little
Sure.
like, we don't know.
Be careful with my
But it
baby.
just careful with my baby. But I was just like, I don't know, man. You can go raise it. Let me know later how it's going. But yeah, so call me later. And now it's been so long, and Theo is 14 months today. Can you believe it? You have to see him again.
So cute and so
He
sweet.
is a special little human. It makes all of the ups and downs of all the stuff that is not in our control a little more manageable and doable, for me. So,
Well, I can't wait to see him again. I just am so grateful for these tiny little humans that,
yeah.
I say, when people say, "Oh, having a kid, it's a real life changer." Um, I like to say it is. It's also a real life maker, um, because I just feel like even though so much is so terrible, nothing is terrible when I'm with her because she's just like my little joy machine. She's the best.
Yeah. Look at you getting me all emotional.
I always get emotional when I talk about her and talk about kids in
God.
general.
It's crazy. It's so
Well, listen,
real.
if you
It's
have
so
another
real.
one, you can hire me as your postpartum doula if
Thank
the
you.
industry hasn't started to kick into gear.
Oh God, I hope to not have to hire you because you'll be crushing and thriving, and you've sold your TV show called Family Emergency, and that you are coming on the podcast again to talk about it in a press junket somewhere in LA, in a fancy hotel in LA. So we're going to manifest this for you. It could be. It could be. We're going to make it happen. Thank you so much again. This was lovely. And Birthright is out. By the time this comes out, Birthright will be out. I will link in the show notes, and we'll be promoting the film, and hopefully people will go see it. So we're moving on to the martini. So what's a song that teleports you to a happy place?
First song that comes to mind is Bill Withers' song "Lovely Day." Right? Lovely day, lovely day, lovely day, lovely day, oh, lovely day.
Ooh, she can sing too. Well, you did music theaters, so that makes sense. Okay, we talked a lot about crafty, so this tracks for me. What's your favorite on-set snack for you that gets you through your long days?
I love a past tray. Doesn't matter what's on it. I kind of like everything. That's another good reason to hire me as an actor on your project. I have no dietary restrictions.
No dietary
allergies, no dietary restrictions. I eat and like everything. And when I see a past tray coming and there's just like little bites where it's like a little chunk of banana with some peanut butter on it and a toothpick or a little pinwheel wrap, I'm like, yes. If it's on a tray, it's fun and delicious. That's kind of whatever it is.
Okay. What's your best advice for surviving the film festival circuit?
I think hydrating. Drink coconut water. I'm not a big coconut water fan, but when I drink coconut water, especially at the film festivals that are at a higher elevation, which a lot of them are, like Sundance and Sun Valley Film Festival, you got to drink coconut water. Just do it. And also, I bring hand sanitizer and maybe like wave rather than shaking too many hands.
So you don't get sick. Yeah.
So you don't get sick.
Yeah, absolutely. What's the most surprising thing you've learned from a co-star?
I don't know if this is surprising, but it's a very funny thing that has stuck with me. My very first TV job. I was a recurring character on Guiding Light, where I played an emergency room nurse. And yes, when I called my parents to tell them that I booked this job, my dad said, "I knew you'd work in the ER one day." But I was working, and I can't even remember what the actor's name is, but I was working with him. And with soap operas, the camera, the scene ends, but then the camera just like continues to like go in and closer and closer and closer and closer. And it's really intimidating thing to be like, I don't have any lines. Why is the camera coming so close to me? Like at the end. And he said to me, there's 3 things to think in your mind in that moment that's happening. And you have to choose which one. The first one is, did I leave the oven on? The second one is, I did leave the oven on. And the third one is, no, I turned the oven off. And those are the 3 things. And I've never forgotten it. And I don't use it in my jobs, but I think of it all the time because it's just such a good, it's just so good. It's like this, like you never know what's going on inside of an actor's mind. They may be thinking, did I turn the oven off? Yes, I did. No, I didn't. And that's the reaction on their face.
That's the beauty. That's the beauty. Okay. And lastly, what is one of the most worthwhile investments you've ever made? And it doesn't have to be financial.
I think, again, first thing to mind is paying for multiple rounds of IVF to create our daughter. It's money that felt like an insurmountable amount of money to spend on something that may or may not work. And it is money that I never thought of for a second after it did work and she was here.
Yeah.
That was the best money ever spent for sure. And then just like the time investment in her.
Yeah.
Everything that has to do with her.
I love it. Well, you are a joyful, delightful human. I'm so glad our paths have intersected multiple times, and I can't wait to like actually work with you for real this time.
I know.
In a real way. So we're gonna.
I would love nothing more. I would love nothing more.
It's gonna happen. It's gonna happen. Well, thank you so much.
Thank you, Carolina.